U.S. President Joe Biden on Friday castigated those he called extremist Republicans who denied the results of the 2020 election.
Democracy can't survive. It cannot survive. Not a joke. Can't survive when one side believes there's only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated.
And next week, he'll carry that message right onto the turf of one of his foremost Republican opponents, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. For the first time as U.S. president, Biden will hold a political rally in a state he lost in 2020 as he treks to Florida on Tuesday to stage a showdown with potential 2024 rival DeSantis.
You glad to live in a free state?
Biden is expected to offer his sharpest attack yet on DeSantis, a governor who has used the power of his office to rise to national prominence by shunning COVID-19 lockdowns, mocking Biden's age and abilities, penalizing Disney World for opposing a new state law limiting discussion of LGBTQ issues in schools, and recently flying Venezuelan immigrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard. While former President Donald Trump has long been considered the Republican frontrunner in 2024, recent polls show DeSantis taking the lead in Florida.
Fighting the lockdowners, fighting the...
DeSantis, whose campaign did not respond to requests for comment, has spent the last 2 years trying to paint Biden as a liberal villain for his handling of the COVID-19 crisis and blame him for record inflation. The Republican governor has also questioned the Democratic president's mental competence. Biden's poll numbers remain underwater in Florida, but some Democrats say Biden's visit will give them a boost in a news cycle frequently dominated by DeSantis. The last time a Democrat won a presidential election in Florida was in 2012, when Barack Obama edged out Mitt Romney by about 100,000 votes. The GOP in Florida holds an advantage with 5.2 million registered Republicans versus 4.9 million registered Democrats. But between them lie some 3.9 million self-identified unaffiliated voters, whom both parties are hungry to win over.
There's an unexploded mine in this potato patch. Yuri Zadorovets said he's found 10 to 15 of them around his home in the eastern Ukrainian village of Kamyanka. They're unwelcome souvenirs of the war.
We
dug the anti-personnel mines out with a 13-foot-long shovel and took it to a visible place, pointed it out to the Ukrainian soldiers, and they shot at them to neutralize them.
Kamyanka came under attack by Russian forces in early March and was recaptured by Ukraine in September. But the town of 1,200 has dwindled down to just 12 over that time. Zadorovets' family are among those who stayed behind. For the first month of Russia's invasion, they hid in a cellar while airstrikes descended on them.
When the shell exploded, I was right. The explosion threw me to the ground. There was dust everywhere around me. The explosion threw the roof up. I didn't understand what was going on or what caused all of this.
In the months since, the shelling has ravaged their home beyond repair. With winter approaching, they face the prospect of months without heat and electricity. They cook and heat their home with the wood from leftover ammunition boxes. Yet another reminder of the war as the Zadorovets begin to pick up the pieces.
Every morning, these students in the West Bank take a long and dangerous route to school. There are always army tanks here, says 17-year-old Basan Makamra. She lives in Masafer, a group of hamlets that have become a major flashpoint. The military has been restricting movement here, and live fire exercises have become increasingly frequent. Students and teachers are held at checkpoints, sometimes for hours, only to be told to go back. In incidents reported to the UN, Israeli forces detained school staff and confiscated vehicles, in one instance, forcing children to walk to school in the desert heat.
This year has been very difficult and has taken a real toll on me, because Israeli forces often find us on the road and stop us. I feel like I am losing my right to get an education, especially since they are on the road and they tell us to go back. But with all of that, we take the risk and take alternative routes that are longer and more dangerous. But we want to learn. What can we do?
Massafar Yatta was declared a closed military zone by Israel in the 80s and has been under a decades-long legal battle that ended a few months ago. In May, an Israeli court ruling cleared the way for the largest displacement in decades to make way for a military firing zone. Israel sees Palestinians living there as seasonal dwellers, but residents are refusing to leave, and rights groups say families have been living here since before Israel captured the West Bank in 1967.
The education rights for children in these areas is violated on more than one level. Firstly, the movement restrictions for children while on their way to school from their villages. As you can see, the checkpoint that is there every day at this time of day to restrict and prevent them from reaching school. The other issue is more related to the psychological aspect, which is scaring and frightening the children, particularly under 10 years of age, when soldiers carrying weapons run after them.
One.
International bodies, including the United Nations and European Union, have expressed concern about the situation at Massafar Yatta. All 4 schools in the area are under the threat of demolition.
Only a third of Americans, including half of Republicans and 1 in 6 Democrats, say it's okay for state officials to fly or bus migrants to other states. That's according to a new Reuters Ipsos poll.
Using migrants as political pawns is shameful.
The poll follows what the White House has called a political stunt. That is, part of a campaign by Republican governors to shift the immigration burden to Democratic areas by busing or flying migrants across the country. Most recently, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took credit for 2 flights carrying around 50 migrants, mostly Venezuelan, from San Antonio, Texas to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, many of whom reported being misled about where they were going or services available to them upon arrival.
What was promised to them? What, if anything, did they sign?
A Texas sheriff is investigating the incident.
We are not a sanctuary state.
Republican leaders like DeSantis, who is up for re-election in November and a potential 2024 presidential candidate, are betting their immigration policies and proposals will help move their core supporters ahead of the November 8 midterms. The 2-day poll, concluded on Thursday, showed Americans are deeply divided on immigration, even within their political parties. 53% of Republicans supported the migrant relocation move, while 29% opposed it. For Democrats, 16% supported the practice, while 55% were opposed. Overall, only 29% of Americans support it, and 40% are opposed. About half of Democratic respondents agreed that it should be easier for people to immigrate to the U.S. 6 in 10 Republican respondents disagreed. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican facing re-election in November, has sent roughly 11,500 migrants to Washington, New York, and Chicago since April. Leading Democrats, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, said some of the state moves to ship migrants north could be criminal and urged federal prosecutors to investigate.
Tesla, which was slapped with a lawsuit alleging racial discrimination, is countersuing the California agency that leveled the allegations against the electric car maker at its flagship assembly plant. The EV manufacturer alleges that the California Civil Rights Department, a state agency charged with enforcing local civil rights laws, flouted requirements that it notify Tesla first and give the firm a chance to settle. Tesla is seeking an order barring the CRD from following what the carmaker calls unlawful procedures and requiring the agency to adopt new regulations through a formal rulemaking process. A spokesperson for the CRD did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Tesla had made similar claims in a bid to dismiss the lawsuit, which was denied by a state judge last month. But the complaint filed this week may allow Tesla's lawyers to uncover new details about the CRD's practices and investigation through the discovery process, which could bolster its efforts to have the case dismissed. The CRD claims Tesla's flagship Fremont, California plant is a racially segregated workplace where Black employees faced racist slurs and graffiti and were discriminated against in terms of job assignments, discipline, and pay. Tesla has denied wrongdoing and said the lawsuit was politically motivated. Tesla is also facing a series of race and sex discrimination cases by workers, most involving the Fremont plant.